All right. Good to see so many faces. I want to start with this.
We see that in the HR space, the exchange of career credentials, education credentials, through a decentralized identity verification is really the emerging technology.
The fourth industrial revolution trends are disrupting long-established business and social models. We see skill shortages, accelerated turnover, contingent workforce, and gig economy that drive a frantic labor market. But the current labor market data sharing system is broken. It still relies on self-reported, untrusted, unverified records as candidate and employee data.
Traditionally, work happens in these four walls, and the world is changing. With the emergence of technology, the world is now a global workplace. Whether you're working or looking to hire, there should be no barrier. And in order to do that, we need to be able to centralize our reputation, centralize what I have done in my career so I can show that to clients anywhere in the world.
As a background screening company, we're still making phone calls to verify people's education, employment records, other types of credential records. It's a 100-year-old process.
We all want to have our credit cards and driver license and membership cards to be within our wallet. Same thing will happen with career data and people wanting to share that information when they're ready to share that. We've been looking for quite a while and we found Velocity. The important thing for us, this was to be a consortium, lots of different groups that participate in the standards around this.
We believe by working with Velocity as well as the consortium of other Titan HR companies within the industry, we are doing this right.
Velocity provides an infrastructure where job seekers, incumbents, recruiters, organizations as a whole, and service providers can contribute and benefit. As far as I can tell, Velocity has the most elaborated concept of blockchain-based self-sovereign identity that currently exists.
Velocity is going at this from an ecosystem perspective, from an application and use point perspective, rather than a technology perspective, which gives us a target audience and an ecosystem ready to deploy.
Just thinking about having digital validated identity should make everyone more employable. Companies increase the time to hire, and even recruiters like Randstad are much more efficient.
I believe that the momentum behind that group of companies that's come together will change the direction and set the standards for how information on careers is exchanged.
This whole movement is a critical aspect of helping empower people to feel confident about the information they're exchanging, and by the same token, making sure that organizations feel like they're getting verified and true data about individuals.
I think we are in the beginning of creating a platform which empowers individuals and organizations for a more effective and more successful environment of work.
Well, I'm convinced that self-sovereign identity is here, and it's going to be here to stay. This is where the future is headed.
The steps in which we are taking today will have a huge impact on the future of the HR industry in general.
It is the future.
So this video was put together 3 years ago. Everybody had shining eyes and very optimistic. 3 years to now, we can safely and proudly say that Velocity Network is live. In the last in the last 3 years, as a community, we've built what is the great transformer of the labor market, and this is what we've all been waiting for. Right? It's about people's right to have agency over their career credentials and be able to navigate their careers freely without relying on third parties to verify their qualifications while preserving privacy throughout their journey. It's about accelerating recruitment for employers, onboarding and mobility, build new pathways from education to employment, improve compliance and unlock innovative employment model that haven't made sense until we have this infrastructure in place. And it's about unleashing an explosion of innovation across the labor and education software market. And the vendors that we see here in this room are the trailblazers of our industry, building new use cases on top of this new network. In the last couple of months, right, 300,000 people have downloaded a career wallet and claimed their credentials using the network, making Velocity Network the largest decentralized identity ecosystem on this planet already. 300,000 people. And I want to give a big shout out to the trailblazers, the leaders of the pack that were involved in issuing hundreds of thousands of credentials in the last couple of months to these 300,000 people. Let's give them a big round of applause. So the trend line that we see in front of us, things that are in the making, right? And with the existing live use cases and the ones that are plans to be launched in the next few months, will get us into incredible pace of adoption, right? The network will cross the 1 million credential wallet holders mark before the end of this year, which is an amazing evidence of what we've built. And these individuals are already able, right, to choose from 3 different Velocity-enabled wallets now available both on App Store and on Google Play. And the fact that we're driving an open source, decentralized ecosystem enables many other to build their own use cases and their own wallets that will cater to constituents and audiences with specific needs, right? In the next few months, we will see several more Velocity-enabled wallets that are launched to the market, enabling the power of choice to the workforce. So this is amazing. The network is the next-gen data utility layer for the global labor market, right? And it's built to process millions or even billions of transactions every day, helping to unlock greater economic value and opportunity for everyone, everywhere, right? The magic is that it's controlled by no single entity, yet anyone can use it, right? And it's built for software vendors to the world of work and education to build their use cases on top of this decentralized utilities layer, abstracting the complexity associated with blockchain, with cryptography, with interoperability protocols from their end user organization. 60 plus vendors are already engaged in developing innovative use cases on top of the network. 60 plus software vendors to the worlds of work and education. You can see the trend line from our humble beginning with our founding members at the end of 2019. We had 14 founding members in a room in San Francisco, pitching that idea, asking them to be the founding members of this community. And from there, look at the trajectory of the organizations that participate in this movement. I want to talk about 3 things today: performance of the network, utility of the network, and monetization, all in the context of the latest and greatest, right? Because obviously, we've been achieving or doing fantastic strides in the last few months. So performance. So the blockchain layer developed by the team at Velocity Career Labs proved highly performant in these last 2 months, right? And the improvements that we plan in the next few years will enable it to process tens of thousands of transactions per second. Just as a reference, the blockchain network that started all this, the Bitcoin network, can process 7 transactions per second. So these numbers are just phenomenal. And thanks to my buddy here, Andres Salave, that led the development of this amazing piece of technology. So, but the performance is achieved not only through architecture and leadership provided by Andres, but also through the participation of the group of organizations opted to run a blockchain node, enabling the decentralized trust registry, right? And it's a good opportunity to recognize the level of innovative thinking these organizations demonstrated, cutting through the corporate complexity, their own corporate complexity, because these are big organizations. And just imagine what it took for their compliance people, for their tech people, for their infosec people, for their legal people to sign off on these organizations to run a blockchain node that will serve the entire community of users. So let's give them a big round of applause, because they make this happen and they sustain the layer that everybody else is building on. And we invite more organizations to join this group and participate in the monetization scheme that for doing so, which is extremely compelling. So that's performance. I want to talk about utility, because as the network has grown with hundreds of thousands and very soon millions of individuals holding verifiable credentials, the question becomes, what is the utility for them? Because ultimately, of course, large employers will rely on integrated verification solutions from their systems of records, from their applicant tracking systems. But what about right now, when many of the relying parties that are supposed to verify these credentials, supposed to receive those credentials from individuals, are not yet connected to the network and therefore unable to process credentials disclosures via the network protocol? So what's the use case now? What's the utility now for the individuals? And again, to mitigate this bootstrapping phase, we made credentials truly universal. Again, a breakthrough in tech that was led by Andres. And credentials holders now can share their credentials beyond the current ecosystem, off network, with relying parties connected to the network, but also with off network participants just using a link or a QR code, right? And we'll demonstrate this in a minute. Holders can share their verifiable credentials on LinkedIn as well. Not just share them, but also if someone clicks on that LinkedIn credential, they can verify them against the blockchain. And because privacy is embedded by design to our thinking, as with all disclosure, these new type of disclosures, off-network disclosure, are still tracked and controlled by the holder. At any given time, the holder may remove those disclosures from the network, making them inaccessible for the parties that they've shared it with. And the relying parties with that link that is provided by the holder, by the workforce holding credentials, and that link can be added to a resume file or can be just shared directly. Relying parties with that link shared by the individual may access these records and verify them after paying the network fees. And I want to invite Justin from the team that worked on that to demonstrate this capability.
Thank you. So the way what happens here is Vanessa Lynn, in this case, goes to her wallet, as Dror just showed, and she creates a disclosure of a number of credentials that she chooses. She can share a link or a QR code with anybody, with a staffing agency, with a recruiter. In this case, she puts it on her resume and shares it with a recruiter. Now, let's say I'm the recruiter. She sends me the resume. I click on the link. It brings me to our universal verification service called proof.bio. Now, as you'll see, these credentials are all here. I'm not even signed in yet. Even before signing in and certainly before paying, I can click on any of these and see the credential itself. If I were so inclined, I could simply accept this at face value. However, I am not. So I'll back up. I will sign in. And now I will click here to verify the credentials. It asks me if I want to use a verification voucher. Vouchers can be purchased in packages. I hit confirm, and now it goes ahead and verifies. Now, depending on the speed of the internet connection, take 1 second, 2 seconds, however many seconds this takes based on the speed. And then you get the report of each of these credentials. If you click on one of them, it shows you that the issuer is verified, the credentials data is verified, that it was issued to Vanessa Lin, that the credential has not been revoked, and that the credential is authentic. If any of these were not verified, you have a red X rather than a green check mark, and in the status, it would say that the credential has failed. In addition to being able to look at this credential by credential, you can also download a PDF which gives you all of the credentials. You can print this, file it in the same way that you might any other report you have at your company. It gives you each credential, whether it passed or failed, how it passed or failed, includes the subject of the report, the person who ran the verification, as well as the date it was created. This entire service is live now. It is universal. It can be used by anybody at the click of a button. If you have any questions about this, you can ask myself, Andres, Eitan, Dror, any of us during the course of the conference. Thank you.
All right, this adds a critical block to our bootstrapping the adoption efforts, because now the individual can share their credentials with anyone, even if they're not even familiar or even aware of Velocity Network. So this is fantastic. Monetization, right? That's another important piece, and the incentives for relying parties to use the network are just a no-brainer, right? What can be better than just getting access to verifiable credentials in a matter of seconds rather than in a matter of weeks, right? So it's a no-brainer. But what is the incentive for issuers to issue credentials, right? In some cases, the incentive is even negative. So this is why we have our monetization framework, because as we say, since money makes the world go round, we have the Velocity credits as the lifeblood of the ecosystem. And Velocity credits are a sophisticated remittance system that rewards actors for the work that they are doing for the ecosystem. Amongst those actors, we have the node operators, but also that run a node, but also the issuers earn credits every time they are issuing credentials to the individual. And the earners of these credits can either use their credits to pay for network services, and by that offset their verification cost. So large issuers that are also relying parties that want to verify applicants' credentials can use these credits that they've earned and essentially use the network for free, or redeem their reward by selling those credits to relying parties who need them to pay for verification. In the last few months, organizations active on the network, contributing to the network, were already able to stack 3 billion credits, earn 3 billion credits. And these credits are now in their treasury, in their wallets, and were earned either by running a node or by issuing. So these credits are the incentive structure, and the fact that we have our payment and reward hub up and running enables them to use these credits for their own benefit. So just to summarize, and I want to end my talk today with a few points that drives me to do what we're doing here. So first of all, we have people here from almost 100 different organizations from 3 or 4 continents. I lost track. And I think that what we have here in the room is one thing in common. We all believe that if we give people right? Wonderful tools, they'll do wonderful things. And this is exactly what we're doing here. And another thing is, I have two kids. Mila, she's a girl, she's 8 years old. Adam is a boy. Today he turned 6. And the other day, and this slide was added to the deck just a couple of days ago. The other day, they had a blast. They thought I'm being silly when I told them that we used to have to wait for 5 minutes or so, right, to rewind our VHS. What? When we wanted to watch it again, right? It sounds insane to them, right? And I remain uncertain about many things that await us in the future, right? We are in a very, very transformative time. But this one thing I'm sure of, our kids would think it's literally insane that when we applied for work, we could say whatever we want. And then we left it to employers to spend weeks to try and verify what we said about ourselves. Moreover, they would think it's just ridiculous and never believe the fact that when we tell them that we didn't have any agency over our own personal records attesting to our qualifications, and we had to rely on third parties to verify these qualifications, and those third parties that held our personal data sold this and monetized this data to their own benefit. Well, it's our data, right? It will sound to them literally insane. So these two things I'm sure of, and this is exactly why me personally, I'm doing that. So it's not every day you can join early to something that would change the world, but this is one of these cases, and it's beyond the point of no return, as you can see. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and I want to thank the amazing people, the technology team led by Andres, our CTO, and the ecosystem development team led by Eitan, that worked tirelessly, and this is the word, right? To bring this once-in-a-lifetime disruption to the labor market to life. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here today, and I wish you an amazing couple of days. So thank you.